T. Second Book of Samuel, otherwise Caffel, T. Second Book of T. Kings. After the death of Saul, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Amalekites, and had been 2 days in Ziklag, behold, there came a man the 3rd day out of the host from Saul, with his clothes rent and earth upon his head. And when he came to David, he fell to the earth and did obeisance. To whom David said, Whence comest thou? And the other answered him, Out of the host of Israel am escaped. And David said to him again, How hath it chanced? Tell me. And he said, The people fled from the battle, and many of the people are overthrown and dead, and Saul and Jonathan his son are dead there too. And David said unto the young man that told him, How knowest thou that Saul and Jonathan his son be dead? And the young man that told him said, Was by chance in Mount Gelbo. And see, Saul leaned upon his spear, and the chariots and horsemen followed him at the heels. And Saul looked back and called me, and answered, Here am. And he said unto me, What art thou? And said unto him, Am an Amalekite. And he said unto me, Come on me and slay me, for anguish is come upon me, and my life is yet all in me. And went on him and slew him, for was sure that he could not live after that he was fallen, and took the crown that was upon his head and the bracelet that was on his arm, and have brought them unto my lord hither. Then David took his clothes and rent them, and so did all the men that were with him. And they mourned, wept, and fasted until evening, for Saul and Jonathan his son, and for the people of the Lord, and for the house of Israel, because they were overthrown with the sword. Then said David unto the young man that brought him tidings, Whence art thou? And he said, Am the son of an alien, an Amalekite. And David said unto him, How is it that thou wast not afraid to lay thine hand on the Lord's anointed to destroy him? And David called one of his young men and said, Go and run upon him. And he smote him that he died. Then said David unto him, Thy blood upon thine own head, for thine own mouth hath testified against thee, saying, Have slain the Lord's anointed. And David sang this song of mourning over Saul and Jonathan his son, and bade to teach the children of Israel the staves thereof. And behold, it is written in the book of the righteous, The glory of Israel is slain upon the high hills. O how were the mighty overthrown! Tell it not in Geth, nor publish it in the streets of Askelon, lest the daughters of the Philistines rejoice, and that the daughters of the uncircumcised triumph thereof. Ye mountains of Gelbo, upon you be neither dew nor rain, nor fields whence heave offerings come. For there the shields of the mighty were cast from them, the shield of Saul as though he had not been anointed with oil. The bow of Jonathan and the sword of Saul turned never back again empty, from the blood of the wounded and from the fat of the mighty warriors. Saul and Jonathan, lovely and pleasant in their lives, were in their deaths not divided, men swifter than eagles and stronger than lions. Ye daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, which clothed you in purple and garments of pleasure, and bordered your raiment with ornaments of gold. How were the mighty slain in battle! Jonathan on the high hills was wounded to death. Woe is me for thee, my brother Jonathan! Delectable to me wast thou exceeding. Thy love to me was wonderful, passing the love of women. How were the mighty overthrown, and how were the weapons of war forlorn! After this David asked the Lord, saying, Shall go up into any of the cities of Judah? And the Lord said, Go. And David answered, Whither shall go? He answered, Unto Hebron. And so David went thither with his 2 wives also, Ahinoam the Jezreelite, and Abigail Nabal's wife the Carmelite. And the men that were with him did David carry up also, every man with his house. And they dwelt in the towns of Hebron. And the men of Judah came, and there anointed David king over the house of Judah. When it was told David how the men of Jabez in Gilead had buried Saul, he sent messengers unto them, and said unto them, Blessed are ye unto the Lord, that ye have showed such kindness unto your lord Saul, and have buried him. Wherefore the Lord show you mercy and truth again, and will do you good also, because ye have done this thing. And now let your hands stir them, and play ye the men, though your master Saul be dead. And finally understand that the house of Judah have anointed me king over them. But Abner the son of Ner, that was captain of Saul's host, took Isbosheth the son of Saul, and brought him to Mahanaim, and made him king over Gilead, and over the Ashurites, and over Jezreel, and over Ephraim and Benjamin, and over all Israel. And Isbosheth Saul's son was 40-year-old when he began to reign over Israel, and reigned 2 years. But the house of Judah only followed David. And the time which David reigned in Hebron over the house of Judah was 7 years and 6 months. And Abner the son of Ner and the servants of Isbosheth the son of Saul went out of Mahanaim to Gibeon. And Joab the son of Zeruiah and the servants of David went out and met them by the pool of Gibeon. And they sat down, the one part on the one side the pool and the other on the other side. And Abner said to Joab, "Let the young men arise and play before us." And Joab answered, "Be it." Then there arose and went over 12 of Benjamin by number, which pertained to Isbosheth the son of Saul, and 12 of the servants of David. And they caught each his fellow that came against him by the head, and thrust his sword in his side, and so fell down all at once. Wherefore the place was called Helath Zurim, which is in Gibeon. And there began an exceeding cruel battle that same day. But Abner and the men of Israel were put to the worse of the servants of David. And there was 3 sons of Zeruiah there, Joab, Abishai, and Asahel, which Asahel was as swift of foot as a wild roe, and followed after Abner, and turned neither to the right hand nor to the left from Abner. Then Abner looked behind him and said, "Art thou Asahel?" And he said, "Yea." Then said Abner, "Turn thee either to the right hand or to the left, and catch one of the young men, and take thee his spoil." But Asahel would not depart from him. And Abner said again to Asahel, "Turn from me, for we're loath to smite thee to the ground. For then how should hold up my face before Joab thy brother? Howbeit he would in no wise depart." Then Abner with the hinder end of the spear smote him under the short ribs, that the spear came out behind him, that he fell down in the same place and died there. And as many as came to the place where Asahel fell down and died stood still. But Joab and Abishai followed Abner till the sun went down. And when they were come to the hill Amah that lieth before Giah in the way that goeth thorough the wilderness of Gibeon, the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together after Abner on a plump, and stood still on the top of an hill. Then Abner called to Joab and said, "Shall the sword devour without end? Knowest thou not that bitterness is wont to come in the latter end? How long shall it be ere thou bid the people return from following their brethren?" And Joab answered, "As truly as God liveth, if thou hadst so said, then even in the morning had the people departed, each from following his brother." And therewith Joab blew a trumpet, and all the people stood still and pursued after Israel no more, nor fought no more. And Abner and his men walked all that night by the wild fields, and went over Jordan, and passed thorough all Beth-horon, and came to Mahanaim. And Joab returned from after Abner, and gathered all the people together. And there lacked of David's servants 19 persons and Asahel. But the servants of David had slain of Benjamin and of Abner's men 360 men. And they took up Asahel and buried him in the sepulchre of his father in Bethlehem. And Joab and his men went all night and came in the dawning to Hebron. There was long strife between the house of Saul and the house of David. But David waxed stronger and stronger, and the house of Saul waxed weaker and weaker. And David had children born him in Hebron. His eldest son was Amnon of Ahinoam the Jezreelite, the second Cheliab of Abigail the wife of Nabal the Carmelite, the third Absalom the son of Maachah the daughter of Tholmai the king of Geshur, the fourth Adoniah the son of Haggith, the fifth Saphatia the son of Abital, the sixth Jethram by Eglah David's wife. These were born to David in Hebron. And as long as there was battle between the house of Saul and the house of David, Abner held up the house of Saul. And Saul had a concubine named Ripha the daughter of Aiah. And Isbosheth said to Abner, "Wherefore liest thou with my father's concubine?" Then was Abner very wroth for the words of Isbosheth, and said, "Am not a dog's head, which against Judah have showed mercy this day unto the house of Saul thy father and to his brethren and friends, and have not delivered them into the hand of David? Seeing thou findest a fault in me this day for a woman, so do God to Abner, and so thereto, except that as the Lord hath sworn to David, so do to him, and bring the kingdom from the house of Saul, and set up the throne of David over Israel and over Judah, even from Dan to Beersheba." And he could give Abner never a word to answer, because he feared him. And Abner sent messengers to David forthwith, saying, "Whose is the land?" And he said thereto, "Make a bond with me, and see my hand is with thee, to bring all Israel unto thee." And David answered, "Well said, will make a bond with thee. But one thing require of thee, that thou see not my face, except thou first bring Michal Saul's daughter, when thou comest to see me." And David sent messengers to Isbosheth Saul's son, saying, "Deliver me my wife Michal, which married with 100th foreskins of the Philistines." And Isbosheth sent and took her from her husband Phaltiel the son of Laish. And her husband went with her, and came weeping behind her till they came to Bethurim. Then said Abner unto him, "Go and return." And he returned. And Abner had communication with the elders of Israel, saying, "Ye have long gone about that David should be king over you. Now then do it. For the Lord hath said of David, By the hand of my servant David will save my people Israel out of the hands of the Philistines and out of the hand of all their enemies. And like words had he with Benjamin, and then went to tell in the ears of David in Hebron all that Israel was content with, and the whole house of Benjamin. And when Abner was come to David to Hebron, and 20 men with him, David made him and the men that were with him a feast. Then Abner said unto David, Will up and go gather all Israel unto my lord the king, that they may make an appointment with thee, that thou mayest be king over all that thine heart desireth. And so David let Abner depart, and he went in peace. And see, the servants of David and Joab came from chasing robbers, and brought a great prey with them. But Abner was not with David in Hebron, for he had sent him away to depart in peace. When Joab and all the host that was with him were come, men told Joab, saying, Abner the son of Ner came to the king, and he hath sent him away, that he is gone in peace. Then Joab went to the king and said, What hast thou done? See, Abner came unto thee, why hast thou sent him away, that he should escape quite? Thou mightest know Abner the son of Ner, that he came to flatter with thee, and to know thy conversation and behaviour, and to know all that thou doest. And when Joab was come out from the king, he sent messengers after Abner, which brought him again from the well of Sirah, unwitting to David. And when Abner was come again to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate, to speak with him guilefully, and there smote him under the short ribs, that he died, for the blood of Asahel his brother. And when it afterward came to David's ear, he said, And my kingdom are guiltless before the Lord forever, concerning the blood of Abner the son of Ner. It fall therefore on the head of Joab, and on all his father's house, that the house of Joab be never without one or other that hath running issues, or without lepers and goers on crutches, and that fall on the sword, and that lack bread. And the cause why Joab and Abishai slew Abner was, that Abner had slain their brother Asahel at Gibeon in battle. And David said to Joab and to all the people that were with him, Rent your clothes, and put on sackcloth, and mourn before Abner. And King David himself full load the bier. And when they had buried Abner in Hebron, the king lifted up his voice, and wept over the sepulchre of Abner, and so did all the people. And the king lamented over Abner, and said, Abner died not as a wretch dieth. Thy hands were not manacled, nor thy feet brought into gyves, but as men fall before wicked children, so fellest thou. And all the people wept yet more over him. And when all the people came to eat meat with David, while it was yet day, David sware, saying, So do God to me, and so thereto, if taste bread or aught else, till the sun be down. And the people wist it, and it pleased them, as well as all other good things which the king did in the sight of the people. And all the people and all Israel thereto understood that day how that it was not the king's mind to slay Abner the son of Ner. And the king said unto his servants, Know ye not how that there is a Lord, and that a great fallen this day in Israel? And am this day tender, though be anointed king? And these men, the sons of Zeruiah, be too good for me to rule. But the Lord reward the doer of evil according to his wickedness. When Saul's son heard that Abner was dead in Hebron, his other no known, hands fainted, and all Israel was troubled. Now this Saul's son had 2 men that were become captains over the soldiers, the one called Baanah, and the other Rechab, the sons of Rimmon a Beerothite, and of the children of Benjamin. For Beeroth was reckoned to pertain to Benjamin. And these Beerothites fled to Gethaim, and sojourned there until the same time. And Jonathan Saul's son had a son that was lame on his feet. 5 years old was he when the tidings came of Saul and Jonathan out of Jezreel. And his nurse took him up and fled away. And as she made haste to flee and was amazed, the child fell and became halt, and was called Mephibosheth. And these sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, Rechab and Baanah, went, and came in the heat of the day to the house of Isbosheth, as he slept on a bed at noon. And behold, they came into the house as though they would have bought wheat, and smote him under the short ribs, and fled. For they came into the house as he slept on his bed in his resting chamber, and smote him, and slew him, and beheaded him, and took his head, and gat them away thorough the wild fields all night. And they brought the head of Isbosheth unto David, to Hebron, and said to the king, Behold there the head of Isbosheth Saul's son, thine enemy, which sought thy soul. But the Lord hath avenged my lord the king this day of Saul and of his seed. And David answered Rechab and Baanah his brother, the sons of Rimmon the Beerothite, and said unto them, As surely as the Lord liveth, which hath delivered my soul out of all adversities, him that told me how that Saul was dead, thinking to have brought me good tidings, caught and slew in Ziklag, to give him a reward for his tidings bringing. And how much more ought to deal with wicked men that have slain a righteous person in his own house upon his bed? Now therefore think ye that will not require his blood of your hands, and take you from the earth. And David commanded his young men, and they slew them, and cut off their hands and their feet, and hanged them up by the pole in Hebron. And they took the head of Isbosheth, and buried it in the sepulchre of Abner in Hebron. Then came all the tribes of Israel to David to Hebron, and said, See, we are thy bones and thy flesh. And there too in time past, when Saul was king over us, thou leddest Israel in and out. And the Lord hath said to thee, Thou shalt feed my Israel, and thou shalt be a captain over Israel. And so all the elders of Israel came to the king to Hebron, and King David made a covenant with them in Hebron before the Lord. And they anointed David king over Israel. David was 30-year-old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years. In Hebron he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months. And in Jerusalem he reigned 30 years over all Israel and Judah. Then went the king and his men to Jerusalem, unto the Jebusites the inhabitants of the land. And they said unto David, Except thou take away the blind and the lame, thou shalt not come in hither, meaning thereby that David should not have come in thither. Nevertheless David took the hold of Sion, which is in the city of David. Then said David the same day, Whosoever winneth the walls and the lame and the blind hated of David's soul. Wherefore the blind and the lame shall not come into the house. And David dwelt in the tower, and called it the city of David. And David built round about it from Millo inward. And David waxed great, and the Lord God of hosts was with him. And Hiram king of Tyre sent messengers to David with cedar trees and carpenters and masons, to build David an house. Whereby David perceived that the Lord had stablished him king over Israel, and had exalted his kingdom for his people Israel's sake. And David took him more concubines and wives out of Jerusalem, after he was come from Hebron, and more sons and daughters were yet born to David. And these be the names of the sons that were born him in Jerusalem: Samuah, Sobab, Nathan, Salomon, Jebahah, Elishua, Nepheg, Japhia, Elisama, Eliada, and Eliphalet. But when the Philistines heard that they had anointed David king over Israel, they came all up to seek David. And as soon as David heard of it, he gat him to an hold. And the Philistines came and laid them along in the valley of Raphaim. And David asked of the Lord, saying, Shall go to the Philistines, and wilt thou deliver them into my hands? And the Lord said unto David, Go, for will deliver the Philistines into thy hands. And David came to Baal-Pharazim, and smote them there, and said, The Lord hath divided mine enemies asunder before me, as a man would divide water. And therefore he called the name of the said place Baal-Pharazim. And there they left their images, and David and his men took them up. And the Philistines came yet again, and laid them in the valley Raphaim. And David asked the Lord, and he said, Go not, but compass them on the backside, and come down upon them from the pear-trees. And when thou hearest the noise of a thing going in the tops of the pear-trees, then move. For then the Lord is gone out before thee to smite the host of the Philistines. And David did as the Lord commanded him, and smote the Philistines from Gabah to Gezer. After that David chose out all the chief young men in Israel to the sum of 30,000, and arose and went, and all the folk that were with him of the men of Judah, to fetch away the ark of God, upon which is called the name of the Lord of hosts, that dwelleth between the cherubims. And they put the ark of God upon a new cart, and brought it out of the house of Abinadab that dwelt at Gabah. And Uzzah and Ahio the sons of Abinadab drave the new cart. And when they brought it out of that house of Abinadab that dwelt at Gabah with the ark of God, Ahio went before the ark. And David and all the house of Israel played before the Lord with all manner instruments of fir wood, with harps, psalteries, timbrels, fiddles, and cymbals. And when they came to Nachon's threshing floor, Uzzah put his hand to the ark of God, and held it, for the oxen stum bled. And the Lord was wroth with Uzzah, and God smote him in the same place for his fault. And there he died by the ark of God. And David was displeased, because the Lord had rent Uzzah. And the name of the place was called Perez Uzzah until this day. And David was then afraid of the Lord, and said, How should the ark of the Lord come to my house? And so David would not bring the ark of the Lord with him into the city of David, but carried it into the house of Obed-Edom a Gethite. And the ark of the Lord continued in the house of Obed-Edom the Gethite 3 months, and the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. And when it was told King David how that the Lord had blessed the house of Obed-Edom, and all that pertained unto him because of the ark of God, he went and brought the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom unto the city of David with gladness. And ever when they that bare the ark of the Lord had gone 6 passes, he offered an ox and a fat sheep. And David danced before the Lord with all his might in a linen ephod girt unto him. And David and all the house of Israel brought the ark of the Lord with shouting and trumpet blowing. And as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Michal Saul's daughter looked through a window and saw King David spring and dance before the Lord, and therefore despised him in her heart. And when they had brought in the ark of the Lord, and had set it even in his place, even in the tabernacle that David had prepared for it, David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. And as soon as David had made an end of offering burnt offerings and peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts, and gave among all the folk, even among the whole multitude of Israel, as well to the women as men, every one a cake of bread and a piece of flesh and a flacket of wine. And so the people departed every man to his house. Then David returned to salute his household. And Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out against him and said, "Oh, how glorious was the king of Israel today, which stripped himself today before the eyes of the maidens of his servants, as a light-brained fellow is wont to strip himself." But David said again to Michal, "We'll make sport before the Lord, which chose me before thy father and before all his kin, commanding me to be ruler over all his people Israel, and will be yet more vile than so, and will be meek in mine own sight, and shall for all that of the very same maidservants which thou speakest of, be had in honour." But the said Michal daughter to Saul had no child unto the day of her death. And in process, as the king dwelt in his house after that the Lord had given him rest round about from all his enemies, he said unto Nathan the prophet, "Behold, dwell in a house of cedar trees, but the ark of God dwelleth in the midst of curtains." Then said Nathan unto the king, "Go and do all that is in thine heart, for the Lord is with thee." But that same night the word of the Lord came unto Nathan, saying, "Go and tell my servant David, Thus saith the Lord, Shalt thou go build me an house for the Lord to dwell in? For I have not dwelt in any house since the time brought the children of Israel out of Egypt unto this day, but have walked in a tent and in a tabernacle. In any way where went among the children of Israel spake one word with any of the tribes of Israel, which commanded to feed my people Israel, saying, Why build ye not me an house of cedar tree? Now therefore so say unto my servant David, Thus saith the Lord of hosts took thee out of a shepherd's coat from following sheep to be a ruler over my people Israel, and was with thee in all that thou wentest to, and have destroyed all thine enemies out of thy sight, and have made thee a great name like unto the name of the great men of the world, and will appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant it, and they shall continue in one place and shall move no more. Neither shall wicked people trouble them any more as they did at the beginning, and since the time commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and will give thee rest from all thine enemies. And the Lord telleth thee that he will build thee an household, and when thy days be fulfilled and thou laid to rest with thy fathers, then will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy body, and will stablish his kingdom. And he shall build an house for my name, and will stablish the seat of his kingdom forever. Will be his father, and he shall be my son, insomuch that if he sin, will but rebuke him with such a rod as men be rebuked with, and with such plagues as the children of men be plagued with. But my mercy will not take away from him, as took it from Saul, whom put down before thee. And thine house and thy kingdom shall endure without end after thee, and thy seat shall be stablished forever. And when Nathan had told David all these words and all this vision, then went King David and set him down before the Lord, and said, What am Lord Jehovah, and what is my kin, that thou shouldest have brought me this far forth? And is this a small thing in thy sight, Lord Jehovah, but that thou shouldest speak also of thy servant's house for a great while to come? Is this a law among men, Lord Jehovah? And what can David say more unto thee, seeing thou knowest thy servant, Lord Jehovah? Even for thy word's sake, and according to thine own heart, hast thou done all these great things to make them known unto thy servant. Wherefore thou art great, O Lord God, and there is none like thee, neither is there any God save thou, according to all that we have heard with our ears. And what one people in the earth is like thy people Israel, which God went and delivered? V. Other, Yahuwah, V. Other, Yahuwah, V. Other, Yahuwah, V. Other, Yahuwah, V. Other people, and to make him a name, and to show them great and terrible things in the earth before thy people which thou redeemest to thee out of Egypt, even from the people and from their gods. And thou hast ordained thy people Israel to be thy people forever. And thou, Lord, art their God. And now, Lord God, the thing thou hast said of thy servant and of his house, make it good forever, and do as thou hast said. And let thy name be great forever, that men may say, The Lord of hosts is the God of Israel. And let the house of thy servant David be stablished before thee. For thou, Lord of hosts, God of Israel, hast told in the ear of thy servant, saying, Will build thee an house. And therefore hath thy servant found in his heart to pray this prayer unto thee. And now, Lord Jehovah, thou art the God, and thy words must be true, for thou hast told this goodness unto thy servant. And now go to and bless the household of thy servant, that it may continue forever before thee. For thou, Lord Jehovah, hast said that of thy blessing the house of thy servant shall be blessed forever. After that David beat the Philistines and subdued them, and took the bridle of bondage out of their hands. And he beat the Moabites and measured them with a line, making them lie along the earth, and then meting the length of 2 lines to slay, and the length of 1 line to save a life. And so became the Moabites David's servants, and paid tribute. David smote also Hadadezer the son of Rehob king of Zobah, as he went to make the end of his coasts at the river Euphrates. And David took 1,700 horsemen of his, and 20,000 footmen, and destroyed all his chariots, reserving 100th of them. Then came the Syrians of Damascus to succor Hadadezer king of Zobah. And David slew of them 22,000 men, and put soldiers in Syria Damascus. And the Syrians became servants to David, paying tribute. And thus the Lord saved David in all that he went to. And David took the shields of gold that were upon the servants of Hadadezer, and brought them to Jerusalem. And there too, out of Beta and Berothai cities of Hadadezer, he brought exceeding great abundance of brass. When Toi king of Hemath had heard how David had discomfited all the host of Hadadezer, he sent Joram his son unto King David to salute him with V. Other, Yahuwah. V. Other, Yahuwah. Peace, and to bless him because he had fought against Hadadezer and beaten him. For Toi kept war with Hadadezer, which son brought vessels of silver, gold, and of brass with him. And them also King David did dedicate unto the Lord with the silver and gold that he consecrated of all nations which he subdued. Of the Syrians, the Moabites, the children of Ammon, the Philistines, the Amalekites, and of the spoil of Hadadezer son of Rehob king of Zobah. And David made him a name after he returned from the slaughter of the Syrians in the valley of Salt, where he slew 18,000 men. And he put keepers in Edom, even throughout all Edom put he soldiers, and all Edom became his servants. And the Lord kept David whatsoever he took in hand. And David reigned over all Israel, and executed right and justice unto all his people. And Joab the son of Zeruiah was over the host, and Jehoshaphat the son of Ahilud was recorder. And Sadok the son of Ahitob and Ahimelech the son of Abiathar were the priests, and Sariah was the scribe. And Benaiah the son of Jehoiada was over the Serethites and the Felethites, and David's sons were chief rulers. Then said David, Is there yet any man left of the house of Saul that may show him mercy for Jonathan's sake? And there was of the household of Saul a servant named Ziba, which was called unto David. And the king said unto him, Art thou Ziba? And he said, Thy servant is the man. Then said the king, Remaineth there yet any man of the kindred of Saul, whom may show the mercy of God upon? And Ziba said unto the king, Jonathan hath yet a son which is lame on both feet. And the king said unto him, Where is he? And Ziba said unto the king, Behold, he is in the house of Machir the son of Ammiel in Lodebar. Then King David sent and fetched him out of the house of Machir the son of Ammiel out of Lodebar. Now when Mephibosheth the son of Jonathan the son of Saul was come unto David, he bowed himself and fell on his face. Then said David, Mephibosheth. And he answered, Behold thy servant. And David said, Fear not, for will surely show thee kindness for Jonathan's sake, and will restore thee all the fields of Saul thy fa. There, and thou shalt eat meat on mine own table always. And the other bowed himself and said, What is thy servant that thou shouldst vouchsafe to look upon such a dead dog as Am? Then the king called unto Ziba Saul's young man, saying unto him, Give unto thy master's son all that pertain to Saul and to all his kin. See therefore that thou and thy sons and thy servants till the land for him, and bring in, that thy master's son may have food to eat. For Mephibosheth thy master's son shall eat meat alway upon my table. For this Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Then said Ziba unto the king, All that my lord hath said unto his servant thy servant shall do. For, said the king, Mephibosheth must eat upon my table as one of the king's sons. This Mephibosheth had a son that was young named Mesha, and all that dwelled in the house of Ziba were servants unto Mephibosheth. And Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he ate ever at the king's table, and was thereto halt on both legs. It happened after this that the king of the children of Ammon died, and Hanun his son reigned in his stead. Then said David, Will show kindness unto Hanun the son of Nahas, as his father showed kindness unto me. And thereupon David sent to comfort him by the hand of his servants over the death of his father. Now when David's servants were come into the land of the children of Ammon, The lords of the children of Ammon said unto Hanun their lord, Thinkest thou that David doth honour thy father, because he hath sent to comfort thee? Nay, he hath rather sent his servants unto thee to search the city and to spy it out, even to overthrow it. Wherefore Hanun took David's servants and shaved off the one half of every man's beard and cut off their garments even in the middle, even hard by the buttocks of them, and sent them away. When it was told David, he sent against them, for they were men exceedingly ashamed, and said, Tarry at Jericho until your beards be grown, and then return. And when the children of Ammon saw that they stank unto David, they sent and hired the sons of Bethrehob of the Syrians of Zobah 20,000 footmen, and of King Maacah 1,000 men, and of Istob 12,000 men. And when David heard of it, he sent Joab and all the host of strong men. And the children of Ammon came out and waged battle before the gate, and the Syrians of Zobah, of Rehob, Istob, and Maacah were by themselves in the fields. When Joab saw that the front of the battle was before an Aphter, he chose of all the best of Israel and put them in array against the Syrians. And the rest of the people he delivered in the hand of Abishai his brother, which put them in array against the children of Ammon. And he said, If the Syrians overcome me, then succour me. But if the children of Ammon be too good for thee, will come and succour thee, quite thee like a man. And let us fight lustily for our people and for the cities of our God. And the Lord do what seemeth best in his eyes. And forthwith Joab proceeded, and the people that was with him, into battle against the Syrians, which fled before him. And when the children of Ammon saw that the Syrians were fled, then fled they also before Abishai, and entered into the city. And so Joab returned from the children of Ammon, and came to Jerusalem. And when the Syrians saw that they were put to the worse before Israel, they gathered them together. And Hadadezer sent and brought out the Syrians that were beyond the river. And the host of them came, and Sobah, the captain of the host of Hadadezer, before them. And when it was showed David, he gathered all Israel, and passed over Jordan, and came to Helam, where the Syrians put themselves in array against David, and fought with him. Howbeit the Syrians fled before Israel. And David destroyed 700 chariots of them, and 40,000 horsemen, and smote Sobah, the captain of his host, that he there died. And when all the kings that were servants to Hadadezer saw that they were put to the worse before Israel, they made peace with them and served them. And so the Syrians feared to help the children of Ammon any more. And it came to pass in the beginning of a new year, in the times when kings are wont to go forth to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel. And they destroyed the children of Ammon, and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still at Jerusalem. And it chanced in an evening that David arose from his couch, and walked upon the roof of the king's palace, and from the roof saw a very beautiful woman washing herself. And he sent to inquire what woman it should be. And it was answered again that she was Bethsabe, the daughter of Eliam, and wife to Urias the Hethite. And David sent messengers, and fetched her, and she came unto him, and he lay with her. And she was straightway purified of her uncleanness, and returned unto her house. And when the woman had perceived that she had conceived, she sent and said, Am with child. Then David sent to Joab to send unto him Urias the Hethite. And Joab sent Urias to David. And when Urias was come unto him, he demanded how Joab did, and how the people fared, and how the war prospered. And David said moreover to Urias, Go down to thine house, and wash thy feet. And Urias departed out of the king's palace, and there followed him a service from the king's table. But Urias slept at the door of the king's palace with all the servants of his lord, and went not down to his house. Then they told David, saying, Urias descended not into his house. Then said David unto Urias, Seeing that thou art come from journeying, why dost thou not go down unto thine house? And Urias said unto David, The ark and Israel and Judah dwell in pavilions, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord lie in tents upon the flat earth, and should then go into mine house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife. By thy life, and as sure as thy soul liveth, will not do that thing. Then said David unto Urias, Tarry here this day also, and tomorrow will let thee depart. And so Urias abode in Jerusalem that day and on the morrow. And David called him, and he ate and drank before him, and he made him drunk. And at even he went out to lie on his couch with the servants of the Lord, and went not down to his house. Wherefore on the morrow David wrote a letter to Joab, and sent it by Urias. And he wrote in the letter, saying, Put Urias in the forefront of the battle, where it is most strong, and come back from him, that he may be smitten to death. And as Joab besieged the city, he assigned Urias unto a place where he wist that strong men were. And the men of the city came out and fought with Joab. And there were certain overthrown of the people and of the servants of David. And Urias the Hethite died also. Then Joab sent and told David all the process of the war, and charged the messengers, saying, When thou hast made an end of telling the story of war unto the king, if he begin to fume, and say unto thee, Wherefore approached ye so nigh unto the city to fight? Wist ye not that men would hurl and shoot from the walls? Who smote Abimelech son of Jerubbesheth? Did not a woman cast a piece of a millstone upon him from off the walls, that he died in Thebes? Why then went ye nigh the walls? Then say thou, Thy servant Urias the Hethite is dead also, and the messengers went and came and showed David all that Joab had sent him with, and said unto David, The men prevail against us, and came out unto us into the field, and we stuck unto them, even unto the entering of the gate. And the shooters shot from the walls, and some of the servants of the king be dead, and thy servant Urias the Hethite is dead also. Then said David unto the messenger, Thus wise say unto Joab, Let not that thing trouble thee, for the sword devoureth one as well as another. Make thy battle more strong against the city, and destroy it, and see that thou courage Joab. And when the wife of Urias heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for him. And as soon as the mourning was ended, David sent and fetched her to his house, and she was his wife, and bare him a son. But the deed that David had committed displeased the Lord. And the Lord sent Nathan unto David. And he came unto him, and said unto him, There were 2 men in one city, a rich and a poor. And the rich had exceeding great abundance of sheep and oxen. But the poor had nothing save one little lamb, which he bought and nourished up. And it grew up with him and his children, and did eat of his own meat, and drank of his own cup, and slept in his bosom, and was as dear unto him as his daughter. And there came a stranger unto the rich man, and he could not find in his heart to take of his own sheep nor of his beasts to dress for the stranger that was come unto him, but took the poor man's lamb, and dressed it for the man that was come to him. And David was exceeding wroth with the man, and said to Nathan, As surely as the Lord liveth, the fellow that hath done this thing is the child of death, and shall restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. Then Nathan said to David, Thou art the man. Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Anointed thee king over Israel, and rid thee out of the hands of Saul, and gave thee thy master's house and thy master's wives into thy bosom, and gave thee the house of Israel and of Judah, and would, if that had been too little, have given thee twice so much more. Wherefore hast thou despised the commandment of the Lord, to do wickedness in his sight? Thou hast killed Urias the Hethite with the sword, and hast taken his wife to thy wife, and hast slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword shall never depart from thine house, because, saith the Lord, thou hast despised me, and taken the wife of Urias the Hethite to be thy wife. Thus saith the Lord, Behold, will stir up evil against thee, even of thine own house, and will take thy wives before thine eyes, and give them unto thy neighbor, which shall sleep with them in the sight of the sun. And thou didst it secretly, yet will do this thing before all Israel, and in the open sunlight. Then said David unto Nathan, Have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said again to David, The Lord hath put away thy sin, thou shalt not die. Howbeit, because in doing this deed thou hast given the enemies of the Lord a cause to rail, the child that is born thee shall die surely. And Nathan departed unto his house. And the Lord struck the child that Urias' wife bare David, and it sickened. And David besought God for the boy, and fasted, and went and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose, and went to him to take him up from the earth. But he would not, neither yet eat meat with them. And it happened the 7th day that the child died. But the servants of David durst not tell him that the child was dead. For they said, See, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How much more then will he vex himself, if we tell him that the child is dead? But David saw his servants whispering, and thereby perceived that the child was dead, and said unto his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, Yea. Then David arose from the earth, and washed and anointed himself, and changed his apparel, and went into the house of the Lord, and prayed, and after came to his own house, and bade that they should set meat before him. And he did eat. Then said his servants unto him, What is this that thou hast done? Thou fastedest and weepest for thy child while it was alive, and as soon as it was dead thou didst rise up and didst eat meat. And he answered, While the child was alive, fasted and wept. For this thought, Who can tell whether God will have mercy on me, that the child may live? But now, seeing it is dead, wherefore should fast? Can bring him again any more? Shall go to him, but he shall not come again to me. And David comforted Bethsabe his wife, and went in unto her, and lay with her. And she bare a son whose name was called Solomon, and the Lord loved him. And he sent by the hand of Nathan the prophet, and called his name Jedidiah of the Lord's behalf. And as Joab fought against Rabbah, the city of the children of Ammon, he took the king's tower, and sent messengers to David, saying, Have made assault to Rabbah, and also have taken the castle from whence they had their water. Now therefore gather the rest of the people together, and come and besiege the city, and take it, lest if take it, the victory be ascribed to me. And David gathered all the people together, and went to Rabbah, and assaulted it, and gat it. And he took the king's crown from off his head, which weighed 100th weight of gold, and was set with precious stones. And David ware it on his head. And he brought out the spoil of the city in exceeding great abundance. And he brought out the people that was therein, and sawed them, and drew harrows of iron upon them, and shred some of them with shredding knives of iron, and thrust some into furnaces. And so he served all the cities of the children of Ammon. And then David and all the people returned unto Jerusalem. And it chanced that Absalom David's son had a fair sister named Tamar, whom afterward Amnon another son of David loved. And this Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for the love of his sister Tamar, for it thought him hard to come by his purpose of her, seeing she was yet a virgin. But Amnon had a companion called Jonadab, the son of Samar, the brother of David, which Jonadab was a very wise man. And he said unto him, How cometh it that thou, being the king's son, art thus consumed every morning? Mayest thou not tell it me? And Amnon answered him, Love Tamar my brother Absalom's sister. Then said Jonadab unto him, Lie on thy bed, and feign thyself sick. And when thy father is come to see thee, say unto him, Let my sister Tamar come and give me meat, and dress it in my sight, that may see it and eat it of her hand. And Amnon lay down and made himself sick. And when the king was come to see him, Amnon said unto him, Let Tamar my sis, to come and make me a couple of fritters in my sight, that may eat of her hand. And David sent home to Tamar, saying, Go to thy brother Amnon's house, and dress him meat. When Tamar came to her brother Amnon's house, he lay. And she took flour, and made paste, and made fritters in his sight, and did bake them, and took a platter, and poured them out be. And Amnon would not eat, but commanded to have out all men from him. And they went all out from him. Then said Amnon unto Tamar, Bring the meat into the chamber, that may eat it of thine hand. And Tamar took the fritters which she had made, and brought them into the chamber to Amnon her brother, and set them before him to eat. And he took her, and said unto her, Come lie with me, my sister. And she answered him, Nay, my brother, do not force me, for it ought not to be so in Israel. Do not this folly. For whither shall go with my shame? And thou shalt be as one of the fools in Israel. But speak unto the king, and he shall not deny me unto thee. Howbeit he would not hearken unto her voice, but was too strong for her, and forced her, and lay with her. And then Amnon hated her exceedingly, so that the hate wherewith he hated her was greater than the love with which he before loved her. And he said unto her, Up and away. Then she said unto him, This great cruelness that thou puttest me away passeth the other that thou didst unto me. Nevertheless he would not hear her, but called his lad that waited upon him, and said, Put her out at the doors from me, and bolt the door after her. And she had a kirtle of divers colours upon her. For with such were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled, made straight unto them. Then his servant brought her out at the doors, and locked the doors after her. And Tamar put ashes on her head, and rent her gay kirtle that was on her, and put her hand on her head, and so went. And as she went, cried. Then Absalom her brother said unto her, Hath Amnon thy brother been with thee? Now then be still my sister, for he is thy brother. And let not this thing grieve thine heart. And so Tamar remained discomfited in her brother Absalom's house. And King David heard of all these things, and was very wroth. And Absalom said unto his brother Amnon, neither good nor bad. Howbeit Absalom hated Amnon, because he had forced his sister Tamar. And it happened 2 years after that Absalom had a sheep shearing in Baal-Hazor, besides the tribe of Eph, Raim, and bade all the king's sons. And he came to the king, and said, Behold, thy servant hath a sheep shearing. Let the king and his servants come with thy servant. And the king said unto Absalom, O nay, my son, let us not go every one of us, that we be not chargeable unto thee. And Absalom lay sore upon him. Howbeit he would not go, but blessed him. Then said Absalom, Then let my brother Amnon go with us. And the king answered, What needeth it that he go with thee? But Absalom made such instance that he let Amnon go with him, and all the king's children. Then Absalom commanded his young men, saying, Mark when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when bid you smite Amnon, then kill him. Fear not, for it is that bid you, be bold therefore, and play the lusty bloods. And the young men of Absalom served Amnon even as Absalom commanded them. And all the king's sons arose and took each man his mule and fled. And while they were yet in the way, tidings came to David that Absalom had slain all the king's sons, so that none was left alive. Then the king arose and tare his garments and lay along on the earth, and all his servants stood by with their clothes rent. Then Jonadab the son of Sama David's brother answered and said, Let not my lord suppose that they have slain all the young men the king's sons, save Amnon only is dead. For that hath been ever in Absalom's mouth since he forced his sister Thamar. Now therefore let not my lord the king take the thing so grievously to think that all the king's sons were dead when Amnon only is dead. But Absalom fled. And the young man that kept the watch lifted up his eyes and looked about. And behold, there came much people by a way that was behind his back along by an hill's side. Then said Jonadab unto the king, Behold, the king's sons are come, and as thy servant said, so it is. And as soon as he had left speaking, behold, the king's sons came and lifted up their voices and wept. And thereto the king and all his servants wept exceedingly. But Absalom escaped and went to Tholmai the son of Ammihud king of Geshur. And the king mourned for his son continually. And so Absalom escaped and went to Gezer, and was there 3 years. And by that time the king turned his mind from pursuing Absalom, for he had left mourning for the death of Amnon. When Joab the son of Zeruiah perceived that the king's heart was turned again to Absalom, he sent to Tekoa, and fetched thence a wise woman, and said unto her, Feign thyself to be a mourner, and put on mourning apparel, and anoint not thyself with oil, but be as a woman that had long time mourned for the death of somebody, and go to the king, and thus manner unto him. And so Joab taught her what she should say. And when the wife of Tekoa was come to speak with the king, she fell on her face to the ground, and did obeisance, and said, Help me, O king. And the king said unto her, What aileth thee? And she answered, I am a widow, and mine husband is dead. And thy handmaid had 2 sons, which fought together in the fields, where was no man to go between them, and the one slew the other. And behold, the whole kindred arose against thy handmaid, and said, Deliver us him that smote his brother, that we may kill him for the soul of his brother whom he slew, for he will destroy the heir also. And so they shall quench my sparkle which is left, that he shall stir up neither name or issue upon the earth unto my husband. And the king said unto the wife, Go home to thine house, and will give a charge for thee. And the woman of Tekoa said unto the king, My lord king, the trespass be on me and on my ephah. There's house, and the king and his seat be guiltless. And then said the king, If any man say aught unto thee, bring him to me, and he shall no more trouble thee. Then said she, Let the king remember his Lord God, that the next of the blood gather not on heaps together to destroy, and that they slay not my son. And he said, As sure as the Lord liveth, there shall not one hair of thy son's head fall to the earth. Then the woman said, Let thine handmaid speak one word more unto my lord the king. And he said, Say on. And the woman said, Wherefore then hast thou determined on this same manner against the people of God, that the king should speak this thing and be faulty therein, so that the king should not fetch home again his banished? For we must needs die and perish as water spilt on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. And God will not take away the life, but find the means that the banished be not utterly expelled from him. And now concerning that am come to speak of this thing unto the king my lord in the presence of the people. Thy handmaid thought, Surely we'll speak unto the king. Peradventure the king will hear the request of his handmaid. And the king shall hear his handmaid, and deliver her out of the hand of the man that would have destroyed me and my son also out of the inheritance of God. Then thine handmaid said, Pray God that the word of my lord the king may be immutable. For my lord the king is as an angel of God in hearing of good or bad, and therefore the Lord thy God be with thee. Then the king answered and said unto the woman, Hide not from me, pray thee, the thing that shall ask thee. And the woman said, Let my lord the king say on. Then said the king, Is not the hand of Joab with thee in all this matter? And the woman answered and said, As sure as thy soul liveth, my lord king, it is neither on the right hand nor on the left that my lord the king hath spoken. For thy servant Joab he bade me, and he put all these words even in the mouth of thine handmaid, and the turning of my tale another way, that made thy servant Joab. And so see that my lord is wise, even as an angel of God, to understand all things that are in the earth. Then said the king to Joab, Behold, I am content to do this thing. Go therefore fetch home the lad Absalom. And Joab fell to the ground on his face, and bowed himself, and blessed the king, and said, Now thy servant knoweth that have found grace in the sight of my lord the king, in that he hath fulfilled the request of his servant. And so Joab arose, and went to Gezer, and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. Then said the king, Let him turn to his own house, but see that he come not in my presence. And so Absalom went to his own house, but came not in the king's presence. Moreover, in all Israel there was not so goodly a man as Absalom, or so greatly praised. From the sole of his foot to the top of his head there was no blemish in him. And when he shaved his head, for at every year's end he shaved it because it was heavy on him, and therefore he shaved it, the hair thereof weighed 200 cycles weight of the king's weight. And this Absalom had 3 sons born him, and 1 daughter named Thamar, which was a fair woman to look upon. When Absalom had dwelt 2 years in Jerusalem without coming into the king's presence, he sent for Joab, to have sent him to the king. But he would not come to him. And he sent again, and for all that he would not come. Then he said unto his servants, Behold, Joab hath a parcel of land fast by mine, and hath barley therein. Go and set it on fire. And Absalom's servants went and set it on fire. Then Joab arose and came to Absalom unto his house, and said unto him, Wherefore have thy servants burned my field with fire? And Absalom said to Joab, Behold, sent for thee, desiring thee to come, because would have sent thee to the king, for to say, Wherefore am come from Gezer. It had been as good for me to have bidden there still. Now therefore let me come to the king's presence, or else if there be any trespass in me, kill me. And Joab went to the king and told him. And he sent for Absalom, which when he was come fell to the ground on his face before the king, and the king kissed him. After this Absalom gat him chariots and horses, and 50 men to run before him. And thereto he used to rise up early in the mornings, and to stand by the way's side that led to the gate of the city. And all the men of Israel that had complaints and came to the king for judgment, he called unto him and said, Of what city art thou? And when the other answered, Thy servant is of such a tribe of Israel. Then said Absalom unto him, See, thy matter is good and righteous, and yet no man is deputed of the king to hear thee. Then Absalom said moreover, O that were a judge in the land, and that all men which have pleas and matter in the law should come to me, for would do them justice. And also when any man came nigh to him to do him obeisance, he put forth his hand, and took him to him, and kissed him. And on this manner did Absalom to all Israel that came to the king for judgment, and therewith stole the hearts of the men of Israel. And at 40 years' end Absalom said unto the king, Let me go pray thee to Hebron, and pay my vow which have vowed unto the Lord. For thy servant vowed a vow when was in Gezer in the land of Syria, saying, If the Lord shall bring me again to Jerusalem, will serve the Lord. And the king said, Go in peace. And so he arose and went to Hebron. Then Absalom sent spies thorough out all the tribes of Israel, saying, As soon as ye hear the voice of the trumpet blow, say, Absalom reigneth king in Hebron. And with Absalom went 200 men out of Jerusalem that were called. And they went with pure hearts, and wist nothing of the matter. And Absalom sent also for Ahithophel the Gilonite, David's counsellor, and fetched him out of his city Gilo when he sacrificed sacrifices. And there was wrought strong treason. And the people drew to Absalom in great multitude. And there came a messenger to David, and said, The hearts of the men of Israel are to follow Absalom. Then said David unto all his servants that were with him at Vive, New, Jerusalem, Up and let us flee, for we shall not else escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he come suddenly and catch us, and bring some mischief upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. And the king's servant said to him, Behold, thy servants are ready to whatsoever my lord the king shall appoint. And the king and all his household departed afoot. And he left behind him 10 wives that were his concubines to keep the house. And so the king and all the people went out afoot, and tarried far from the house. And all his servants went by his side. And all the Serathites, and all the Pelethites, and all the Hethites, even 600 men which were come afoot from Geth, went before the king. Then said the king to Ethi the Gethite, Wherefore shouldest thou go with us also? Return and abide with the king, for thou art a stranger, and art removed from thine own place. Thou camest but yesterday, and should unquiet thee today to go with us. We'll go whither go, but return thou, and carry again thy brethren. Mercy and truth be with thee. And Ethi answered the king and said, As surely as the Lord liveth, and as surely as my lord the king liveth, in what place my lord the king shall be, whether in death or life, even there will thy servant be. Then said the king to Ethi, Come and go forward. And Ithai the Gethite went forth, and all his men, and all the children that were with him. And all the country wept with a loud voice, and all the people went forward the straight way to the wilderness. And behold, Zadok and all the Levites were with him, and bare the ark of the appointment of God. And when they had fetched down the ark of God, Abiathar came up, until the people were all come over out of the city. Then said the king unto Zadok, Carry the ark of God again into the city. If shall find favour in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me again, and show me both it and the tabernacle thereof also. And if the Lord thus say, Have no lust unto thee, behold, here am, let him do with me what seemeth best in his eyes. The king said also unto Zadok the priest, Thou art a seer. Return therefore into the city in peace, and take your 2 sons with you, Ahimaaz thy son, and Jonathan the son of Abiathar. And see, will tarry in the fields of the wilderness until there come some word from you to be told me. And so Zadok and Abiathar carried the ark of God again to Jerusalem, and they there. And David went up on Mount Olivet, and wept as he went, and had his head covered, and went thereto barefoot. And all the people that was with him had every man his head covered, and as they went wept also. And one told David, saying, Ahithophel is one of them that have conspired with Absalom. Then said David, O Lord, turn the counsel of Ahithophel unto foolishness. When David was come to the top of the mount, and had bowed himself unto God, behold, Hushai the Arachite came against him with his coat torn, and earth upon his head. Unto whom David said, If thou go with me, thou shalt be a burden unto me. And if thou return to the city, then shalt thou say unto Absalom, Will be thy servant, O king. Thus long have been thy father's servant, and now am thine. And destroy me the counsel of Ahithophel. And thou hast there with thee Zadok and Abiathar the priests, unto which thou shalt show all that thou canst hear out of the king's house. And behold, ye have there with you their 2 sons, Ahimaaz Zadok's son, and Jonathan Abiathar's son, by which ye shall send me all that ye can hear. And so Hushai David's friend gat him to the city, and Absalom also entered into Jerusalem. And when David was a little past the top of the hill, behold, Ziba the servant of Mephibosheth came against him with a couple of asses saddled, and upon them 200 loaves, and 100 bunches of risinges, and 100 frails of dried figs, and a bottle of wine. Then said the king to Ziba, What hast thou there? And Ziba said, Asses for the king's household to ride on, and bread and fruit for the young men to eat, and wine to drink, if any man faint in the wilderness. Then said the king, Where is thy master's son? And Ziba said unto the king, Behold, he tarrieth still at Jerusalem. For he said, This day shall the house of Israel restore me the kingdom of my father. Then said the king to Ziba, Behold, thine are all that pertain to Mephibosheth. And Ziba answered, Beseech thee that may find grace in thy sight, my lord king. And when King David came to Bahurim, behold, thence came out a man of the kindred of the house of Saul, named Shimei the son of Gera. And he came out cursing. And thereto he cast stones at David and at all the servants of King David, all the people and all the men of war, going part on his right hand, and part on his left. And thus said this Shimei as he cursed, come forth, thou bloodshedder, and thou unthrifty man. The Lord hath brought upon thee all the blood of the house of Saul, in whose stead thou hast reigned, and he hath delivered the kingdom into the hand of Absalom thy son. And thou art wrapped about with thine own mischief, because thou art a bloodshedder. Then said Abishai the son of Zeruiah unto the king, Why doth this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go and take off the head of him. And the king said, What have to do with you, ye sons of Zeruiah? Let him curse, for the Lord hath bid him curse David. And who dare presume to say, Wherefore doth he so? And David said to Abishai and to all his servants, Behold, my son which came out of mine own bow, else seeketh my life. How much more may this son of Gemini do it? Suffer him therefore to curse, for the Lord hath bid, den him. Haply the Lord will look on my wretchedness, and do me good for his cursing this day. And thus as David and his men went by the way, Shimei went along on the hillside over against him, and cursed as he went, and threw stones at him, and cast dust. And the king and all that were with him came weary, and refreshed themselves there. And Absalom and all the people of the men of Israel came to Jerusalem, and Ahithophel with him. And as soon as he was come, Hushai the Arachite went unto Absalom, and said unto him, God save the king, God save the king. And Absalom said again to Hushai, Is this the kindness thou owest to thy friend? Why wentest thou not with him? And Hushai said unto Absalom, Nay, not so, but whom the Lord and this people and all the men of Israel choose, his will be, and with him will dwell. And furthermore, unto whom shall do service but even to his son? And as was servant before with thy father, even so shall be with thee. Then spake Absalom to Ahithophel, Give counsel what is best for us to do. And Ahithophel said unto Absalom, Get thee in unto thy father's concubines, which he hath left to keep the house. For when all Israel shall hear that thou hast made thy father to stink, then shall the hands of all that are with thee be strong. And so they pitched Absalom a tent upon the top of the house, and he went in unto his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. And the counsel of Ahithophel, which he counselled in those days, was as a man had asked counsel of God, even so was all the counsel of Ahithophel, both unto David and also unto Absalom. Then Ahithophel said unto Absalom, Let me choose out, pray thee, 12,000 men, and will up and follow after David by night, and will come upon him while he is weary and weak-handed, and will fear him that all the people that are with him shall flee, and so will smite the king onely, and will bring again all the people unto thee. And when all these men which thou seekest are turned to thee, all the people shall have rest. And the saying pleased Absalom well, and all the elders of Israel. Then said Absalom, Call also Hushai the Arachite, and let us hear his sentence. When Hushai was come to Absalom, Absalom spake unto him, saying, Ahithophel hath given such counsel. Whether it be best we do after his saying or not, tell thou. Then said Hushai to Absalom, The counsel that Ahithophel hath given is not good at this time. For, said Hushai, thou knowest thy father and the men that are with him, how that they be strong men, and they be chafed in their minds, even as a bear robbed of her whelps. And thy father is a man practised in war, and will not lie o' nights among the common people. Behold, he lurketh now in some cave or in some other place. And there too, though some of his men be overthrown at the first brunt, yet they that hear it will think the people that followeth Absalom be put to the worse. By the reason whereof the best men thou hast, whose hearts are as the hearts of lions, shall shrink thereat. For all Israel knoweth that thy father is a man, and that they which be with him be children of activity. But my counsel is that all Israel be gathered unto thee, from Dan to Bersabee, as the sand of the sea in number, and that thou go to battle in thine own person. And we will come upon him in one place or other, where we shall find him. And we will pitch a field against him, even as thick as the dew falleth on the ground. And there shall not one of them be left, neither he nor any of all that are with him. Moreover, if he take a town, then shall all the men of Israel bring ropes to that city, and we will draw it into the river until there be not one stone found upon another. And Absalom and all the men of Israel said that the counsel of Hushai the Arachite was better than the counsel of Ahithophel. For it was even the Lord's determination to destroy the counsel of Ahithophel, which was good, that the Lord might bring evil upon Absalom. Then said Hushai unto Sadok and Abiathar the priests, Of this and that manner did Ahithophel and the elders of Israel counsel Absalom, and thus have counselled. Now therefore send quickly, and show David, saying, Tarry not all night in the fields of the wilderness, but get thee over, lest the king be devoured, and all the people that are with him. Now Jonathas and Ahimaaz abode by the well Rogel, for they might not be seen to come into the city. And a wench went and told them, and they to go and showed King David. Nevertheless there was a lad saw them, which told it to Absalom. But they went both of them away quickly, and came to a man's house in Bahurim, which had a well in his yard, into which they went down. And the wife took and spread a coverlet on the top of the well, and strawed thereon steeped barley to dry. And the thing was not spied. And when Absalom's servants came to the wife to the house, and asked where one Ahimaaz and Jonathas were, the wife said unto them, They be gone over the little brook of Water. And when they had sought them, and could not find them, then they returned to Jerusalem. And as soon as they were departed, the other came out of the well, and went and told King David, and said unto him, Up and get you quickly over the water, for such counsel hath Ahithophel given. Then David arose, and all the people that were with him, and they were come over Jordan, be that it was day, that there lacked not one of them that was not come over Jordan. And when Ahithophel saw that his counsel was not followed, he saddled his ass, and arose, and gat him home to his own house and to his own city, and put his household in order, and hanged himself, and died, and was buried in the sepulchre of his father. Then David came to Mahanaim, and Absalom passed over Jordan, both he and all the men of Israel with him. And Absalom made Amasa captain of the host in the stead of Joab, which Amasa was a man's son named Jethro, a Jezreelite, that went into Abigail, the daughter of Nahar's sister to Zeruiah Joab's mother. And Israel and Absalom pitched in the land of Gilead. And when David was come to Mahanaim, Sobi the son of Nar out of Rabath, the city of the children of Ammon, and Machir the son of Ammiel out of Lodebar, and Barzillai the Gileadite out of Rogelim, brought beds, basins, and earthen vessels, and also barley, flour, and parched corn, beans and rice honey, butter, sheep, and cheese of kine, for David and all the people that were with him to eat. For they supposed that the people should be hungry, fainty, and thirsty in the wilderness. And the king numbered the people that were with him, and set captains of thousands and of hundreds over them. And he sent one part of them with Joab, and another part with Abishai the son of Zeruiah Joab's brother, and the third part with Ethai the Gethite. And the king said unto the people, Shall go with you? And the people answered, Nay, for if we flee, our adversaries will not care for us. Neither though half of us were slain shall they regard us. But thou were worth 10,000 of us, and therefore it is better that thou be ready to succor us out of the city. Then said the king, What seemeth you best, that will do. And the king stood up by the gate side, and all the people came out by hundreds and by thousands. And the king commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ethai, saying, Entreat me gently my son Absalom. And all the people heard when the king gave all the captains charge over Absalom. And the People went out into the field against Israel, and the battle was in the wood of Ephraim, where the people of Israel were put to the worse before the servants of David, and there was a great slaughter that day, even of 20,000 men. And the field was fought in divers places all abroad upon the earth. And the woods devoured more people that day than did the sword. And it chanced Absalom to come before the servants of David, riding upon a mule which carried him under the thick boughs of a great oak. And his head caught in the oak, and he was left between heaven and earth, and the mule that was under him went his way. And one that saw it told Joab, saying, Behold, saw Absalom hang in an oak. And Joab said unto him that told him, Lo, sawest thou him? And why didst thou not there smite him to the ground, that should have given thee 10 cycles of silver and a soldier's girdle? And the man answered Joab, Though had 1,000 sickles of silver told in my hand, yet would not stretch out mine hand against the king's son. For we heard with our ears when the king charged thee, Abishai and Ethai, saying, Spare me the lad Absalom. Moreover, thou had jeoparded my life, and done falsely thereto, yet could naught of all the matter have been hid from the king. Yea, and thou thyself wouldest be against me. Then said Joab, May not stand tarrying with thee. And therewith he took 3 spears in his hand, and thrust them into the heart of Absalom, while he was yet alive on the body of the tree. And 10 servants that bare Joab's weapons turned and smote Absalom and slew him. Then Joab blew a trumpet, and the people returned from following Israel, for Joab spared the people. And they took Absalom and cast him into a great pit that was in the wood, and cast a mighty great heap of stones upon him. And all Israel fled every man to his tent. And this Absalom yet in his lifetime took and reared up a pillar which is yet in King's Dale. For he said, Have no male child, and therefore to keep my name in remembrance do it. And he called the pillar after his own name. And it is called unto this day Absalom's pillar. Then said Ahimaaz the son of Zadok, Let me run, pray thee, and bear the king tidings, how that the Lord hath judged him quite of the hands of all his enemies. And Joab said unto him, Thou art no man to bear tidings today. Thou shalt bear tidings another time. But today thou shalt bear none, because the king's son is dead. Then said Joab to Chusi, Go and tell the king what thou hast seen. And Chusi bowed himself unto Joab and ran. Then said Ahimaaz the son of Zadok again to Joab, Come what come will, let me run, pray thee, after Chusi. And Joab said, Wherefore shouldest thou run, my son? For an thou run, thou gettest no reward. Well, come, what will let me run? And he said unto him, Run. Then Ahimaaz ran by the plain and overran Chusi, and David sat between the 2 gates. And the watchman went up to the roof over the gate unto the wall, and lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, there came a man running alone. And the watchman called and told the king. And the king said, If he come alone, there is tidings in his mouth. And he came and drew nigh. And the watchman saw another man running, and called unto the porter, and said, Behold, there cometh another running alone. And the king answered, He is also a tidings bringer. And the watchman said, Methinketh the running of the foremost is like the running of Ahimaaz the son of Zadok. And the king said, He is a good man, and cometh with good tidings. And Ahimaaz called and said to the king, Good tidings, and bowed himself to the earth upon his face before the king, and said, Blessed be the Lord, God which hath shut up all the men that lifted up their hands against my lord the king. And the king said, Is the lad Absalom safe? And Ahimaaz answered, Sore a great ado, when the king's servant Joab sent me thy servant, but wot not what it was. And the king said, Turn and stand here. And he turned and stood. And behold, Chusi came and said, Tidings, my lord the king, the Lord hath quite thee this day out of the hands of all that rose against thee. And the king said to Chusi, Is the lad Absalom safe? And Chusi answered, The enemies of my lord the king and all that rise against thee to have thee be as thy lad is. And the king was moved and went up to a chamber over the gate and wept. And as he went thus he said, My son Absalom, my son, my son, my son Absalom, would to God had died for thee, Absalom, my son, my son. And it was told Joab how that the king wept and mourned for Absalom, and the victory was turned that day into mourning unto all the people. For the people heard say that day how the king sorrowed for his son, and the people went stealing into the city, as people confounded steal away when they flee in battle. And the king hid his face and cried with a loud voice, My son Absalom, Absalom, my son, my son. And Joab went into the house to the king and said, Thou hast shamed this day the faces of all thy servants, which this day have saved thy life and the lives of thy sons and daughters, and the lives of thy wives and concubines, in that thou lovest thine enemies and hatest thy friends. Thou hast declared this day that thou camest nay there for thy lords nor servants. For this day do perceive, if Absalom had lived, and all we died this day, that then it had pleased thee well. Now therefore up and come out, and speak kindly unto thy servants. Swear by the Lord, except thou come out. There will not tarry one man with thee this night, and that will be worse unto thee than all the evil that fell on thee from thine youth unto this hour. Then the king arose and sat down in the gate, and it was told unto all the people how the king sat in the gate. And then all the people came before the king. But Israel fled every man to his tent, and all the people were at strife throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, The king delivered us out of the hand of our enemies, and he delivered us out of the hand of the Philistines. And now he is fled out of the land for Absalom. But Absalom, whom we anointed over us, is dead in battle. Now therefore why are ye so still, that ye bring not the king again? And King David sent to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, saying, Speak unto the elders of Judah, and say, Why should ye be the last that should bring again the king to his house, seeing that such tidings is come from all Israel unto the king, even to his house? Ye are my brethren, my bones and my flesh. Wherefore then should ye be the last that should come to bring the king home again? And say to Amasa, Art thou not my bone and my flesh? And God do so to me, and so thereto, except thou be captain of the host to me forever in the room of Joab. And he bowed the hearts of all the men of Judah, as a man would bow the heart of one man, so that they sent word to the king that he should return with all his servants. And the king returned and came to Jordan, and Judah came to Gilgal for to go against the king to convey him over Jordan. And Semei the son of Gera, the son of Gemini, which was of Bahurim, hasted and came with the men of Judah against King David, and 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons and 20 servants with him. And they whipped over Jordan before the king, and there went over a boat to carry over the king's household and to do him pleasure. And Semei the son of Gera fell before the king as he was come over Jordan, and said unto him, Let not my lord impute wickedness unto me, nor let him not remember the wickedness that thy servant did, when my lord the king departed out of Jerusalem, that the king should take it to heart. For thy servant doth know how that have done amiss. And therefore, behold, am the first this day of all the house of Joseph that am come to meet my lord the king. But Abishai the son of Zeruiah answered and said, Shall Semei not die for that cause which cursed the Lord's anointed? And the king said, What matter is between you and me, ye sons of Zeruiah, that ye should this day be adversaries unto me? There shall no man die this day in Israel, for know that am this day king over Israel. And the king said unto Semei, Thou shalt not die, and swear unto him. And Mephibosheth the son of Saul came to meet the king, and had neither dressed his feet, nor shaved his beard, nor washed his clothes from the time the king departed, until he came again in peace. And when he was come to Jerusalem toward the king said unto him, Wherefore went not thou with me, Mephibosheth? And he said, My lord king, my servant deceived me. For thy servant said, That would have mine ass saddled to ride thereon, for to go to the king, because thy servant is lame. And he hath thereto complained on thy servant unto my lord the king. But my lord the king is as an angel of God. Do therefore what seemeth best in thine eyes. For all my father's house were but dead men unto my lord the king. And yet didst thou put me among them that eat at thine own table. What right therefore have yet to cry any more unto the king? And the king said, It needeth thee not to speak any more, for have said, that thou and Ziba shall divide the lands between you. And Mephibosheth said unto the king, Yea, let him take all, for so much as my lord the king is come in peace unto his own house. And Barzillai the Gileadite came from Rogelim, and went over Jordan with the king to accompany him over Jordan, which Barzillai was a very aged man, even 80 and had provided the king of sustenance while he lay at Mahanaim, for he was a man of very great substance. And the king said unto Barzillai, Come thou with me, that may feed thee with me in Jerusalem. But Barzillai said unto the king, Of what age am of that should go with the king into Jerusalem? Am this day 80, and therefore cannot discern savoury from unsavoury. Neither hath thy servant pleasure in that he eateth or drinketh, nor yet delectation in the songs of men or women. It is no need that thy servant be a burden unto my lord the king. Let thy servant go a little way over Jordan with the king, for why should the king render me such a reward? But let thy servant turn back again, that may die in mine own city by the grave of my father and mother. But lo, here is thy servant Chamam. Let him go with my lord the king, and do to him what shall please thee. And the king answered, Chamam shall go with me, and will do to him that thou shalt be content with. And thereto whatsoever thou shalt require of me, that same will do for thee. And all the people went over Jordan. And when the king was come over Jordan, he kissed Barzillai and took his leave of him, and he went back again unto his own place. And then the king went to Gilgal, and Chamam went with him. Now all the men of Judah were at the bringing over of the king, and but half the men of Israel. Wherefore all the men of Israel came to the king, and said unto him, Why have our brethren the men of Judah stolen thee away, and have brought the king and his household and all David's men with him over Jordan? And all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, For the king is near of kin to us, wherefore be ye angry for that matter? Think ye that we eat of the king's cost, or that the king giveth us any gifts? And the men of Israel answered the men of Judah, and said, We have 10 parts in the king, and have thereto more right to David than ye. Why then did ye despise us, that our advice had not been first had in restoring our king again? And the words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. And there happened to be an unthrifty fellow named Seba, the son of Bochri, a man of Gemini, which blew a trumpet and said, We have no part in David, nor inheritance in the son of Isai, O Israel. Let us depart therefore every man to his tent. And all Israel went from David, and followed Seba the son of Bochri. But the men of Judah clave fast unto the king, from Jordan to Jerusalem. And when David was come to his house to Jerusalem, he took the 10 wives his concubines that he had left behind him to keep the house, and put them in ward, and ministered all things unto them, but lay no more with them. And so they were enclosed unto the day of the death of them, and lived a widow's life. Then said the king to Amasa, Call me the men of Judah together within 3 days, and present thyself here. And Amasa went to gather the men of Judah together, but tarried longer than the time which was appointed him. Wherefore the king said to Abishai, Now shall Seba the son of Bochri be worse to us than Absalom. Take thou therefore thy lord's servants, and follow after him, lest he get him walled cities and escape us. And there went out after him Joab's men, and the Serathites, and the Pelethites, and the men of might. And they departed out of Jerusalem to follow after Seba the son of Bochri. And when they were come to the great stone in Gibeon, Amasa met them. And Joab had his garment that he had about him girt unto him, and had girded thereon a knife joined fast to his loins, in such a sheath that as he went it fell sometimes out. And Joab said to Amasa, Are all things in rest, vive, other, nigh kindred? My brother. And Joab took Amasa by the chin with the right hand, as though he would have kissed him. And Amasa took no heed to the knife that was in Joab's hand, with which Joab smote him in the short ribs, and shed out his bowels to the ground, and smote him but one stroke, and he died. And then Joab and Amasai his brother followed after Seba the son of Bochri. And one of Joab's men that stood by him said, What is he that he would be as Joab? And what is he that would be unto David instead of Joab? And Amasa lay wallowing in blood in the midst of the way. And there was a man that saw all the people stand still. And when he saw that all that came by him stood still, he rolled Amasa out of the way into the field, and cast a cloth upon him. And as soon as he was tumbled out of the way, all the people went after Joab to follow after Seba the son of Bochri. And he went thorough all the tribes of Israel unto Abel, Bethmaachah, and all Barim. And the people gathered unto him, and went also after him. And they came and besieged him in Abel Bethmaachah. And they cast up a bank against the city, and it was besieged. All the people that was with Joab laboured busily to overthrow the wall. Then cried a wise woman out of the city, Hear, hear, bid pray you Joab that he come hither, that may speak with him. When Joab was come, the woman said, Art thou Joab? And Joab answered that am. And she said to him, Hear the words of thy handmaid. And he said, Am ready to hear. And she said, It hath been a common saying in the old time, men must ask of Abel, and then go and finish the work. Abel is one of the quietest and faithfulest cities that are in Israel, and thou goest about to destroy a city that is as a mother in Israel. Why devourest thou the inheritance of the Lord? And Joab answered and said, God forbid it me, that should either devour or destroy it. The matter is not so. But there is a man of Mount Ephraim, Seba the son of Bochri by name, which hath lifted up his hand against King David. Deliver us him onely, and will depart from the city. And the woman said unto Joab, Behold, his head shall be thrown thorough the wall to thee. And then the woman went unto all the people in her wisdom, and they smote off the head of Seba son of Bochri, and cast it to Joab. And he blew a trumpet, and they scattered from the city every man to his tent, and Joab returned to Jerusalem unto the king. And Joab was over all the host of Israel, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada was over the Serathites and the Felethites, and Aduram was over the tribute, and Jehoshaphat the son of Ahilud was recorder. Semar was scribe, and Sadok and Abiathar were priests, and Ira the Jairite was likewise David's priest. Then there fell an hunger in the days of David 3 years, year by year, and David inquired of the Lord. And the Lord answered, It is for Saul's sake and the house of blood, because he slew the Gibeonites. And the king called the Gibeonites and said unto them, Now these Gibeonites are not of the children of Israel, but a remnant of the Ammonites, and the children of Israel swear unto them. And yet Saul sought to slay them, for a zeal that he had to the children of Israel and of Judah. Wherefore David said unto them, What shall do for you? And wherewith shall content you, that ye may bless the inheritance of the Lord? And the Gibeonites said unto him, We have no matter of silver or of gold with Saul or with his house, neither have we any man that we would kill in Israel. Then he said, What say ye that shall do for you? And they said unto the king, The man that consumed and imagined to bring us to naught, him we ought to destroy, that naught of him continue in any of the coasts of Israel. Let 7 men of his sons be delivered unto us, that we may hang them up unto the Lord in Gabaa of Saul the Lord's elect. And David said, We'll give them you. But the king had compassion on Mephibosheth the son of Jonathan the son of Saul, because of the Lord's oath that was between them, that is to say, between David and Jonathan the son of Saul. But he took the 2 sons of Rezpha the daughter of Aiah, which she bare unto Saul, Armoni and Mephibosheth, and the 5 sons of Michal the daughter of Saul, which she bare to Adriel the son of Barzillai the Molathite, and delivered them unto the hands of the Gibeonites, which hanged them in the hill before the Lord. And they fell all 7 together in the first days of harvest, even in the beginning of barley harvest. And Rezpha the daughter of Aiah took sackcloth and spread it under her upon the rock, even from the beginning of harvest until rain dropped upon them out of heaven, and suffered neither the birds of the air to fall on them by day, nor beasts of the field by night. And when it told David what Rezpha the daughter of Aiah the concubine of Saul had done, he went and took the bones of Saul, and of Jonathan his son, and of the men of Jabes in Gilead, which they had stolen from the street of Bethsan, where the Philistines had hanged them in the days when the Philistines had slain Saul in Gelbo. And he brought thence the bones of Saul and the bones of Jonathan his son, and they fetched away the bones of them that were hanged, and buried them with the bones of Saul and Jonathan his son in the country of Benjamin in Zelah, in the sepulchre of Cis his father. And when they had performed all that the king commanded, God was then at one with the land, and the Philistines had yet again war with Israel. And David went down and his servants with him, and fought with the Philistines. And David waxed fainty, and Jezebel of Nob, one of the sons of Harapha, whose spearhead weighed 300 sickles of brass, and was girded with a new sword, thought to have slain David. But Abishai the son of Zeruiah succoured him, and smote the Philistine, and killed him. Then the servants of David sware unto him, saying, Thou shalt go no more out with us to battle, that the light of Israel be not put out. And there was yet after this battle with the Philistines at Nob, in which Sobachai the Husathite slew Saph of the sons of Harapha. And there was yet the 3rd battle in Gob with the Philistines, where Elhanan the son of the Jereh-Orgim, a Bethlehemite, slew one Goliath a Gethite, the staff of whose spear was as great as a weaver's cloth beam. And there was yet battle in Geth, where was a man of a size, and had on every hand 6 fingers, and on every foot 6 toes, 24 in all, and was also of the kindred of Harapha, and defied Israel, And Jonathas the son of Samach the brother of David slew him. These 4 were of the sons of Harapha in Geth, and were overthrown by the hand of David and by the hands of his servants. And David spake the words of this song unto the Lord, what time the Lord had delivered him out of the hands of all his enemies and out of the hands of Saul. And he said, The Lord is my rock, my castle, and my deliverer. God is my strength, and in him will trust. My shield and the horn that defendeth me, mine high hold and refuge. O my Saviour, save me from wrong. Will praise and call on the Lord, and so shall be saved from mine enemies. For the waves of death have closed me about, and the floods of Belial have feared me. The cords of hell have compassed me about, and the snares of death have overtaken me. In my tribulation called to the Lord, and cried to my God. And he heard my voice out of his temple, and my cry entered into his ears. And the earth trembled and quake, and the foundations of heaven moved and shook, because he was angry. Smoke went up out of his nostrils, and consuming fire out of his mouth, that coals were kindled of him. And he bowed heaven and came down, and darkness underneath his feet. And he rode upon cherub and flew, and appeared upon the wings of the wind. And he made darkness a tabernacle round about him, with water gathered together in thick clouds. Of the brightness that was before him, coals were set on fire. The Lord thundered from heaven, and the Most High put out his voice. And he shot arose and scattered them, and hurled lightning and turmoiled them. And the bottom of the sea appeared, and the foundations of the world were seen by the reason of the rebuking of the Lord, and thorough the blasting of the breath of his nostrils. He sent from on high, and fetched me, and plucked me out of mighty waters. He delivered me from my mighty enemy, and from them that hated me and were too strong for me. When they had compassed me in the day of my tribulation, the Lord stayed me up. And he brought me out into roomth, and delivered me, because he delighted in me. The Lord rewarded me according to my righteousness, and according to the pureness of my hands he dealt with me. For kept the ways of the Lord, and did no wickedness, forsaking my God, but had all his laws in my sight, and turned my face from none of his ordinances, but was pure unto him ward, and kept myself from wickedness. And the Lord did to me again according to my righteousness, and after my pureness that had in his sight. With the holy thou shalt be holy, and with the man that is uncorrupt thou shalt be uncorrupt. With the pure thou shalt be pure, and with the froward thou shalt be froward also. And the people that are in adversity thou shalt help, and on the proud shalt thou cast thine eyes. Thou art my light, O Lord, and the Lord shall light my darkness. With thy help will run thorough an host of men, and by the aid of my God will over a wall. The way of God is undefiled, and the word of the Lord find as gold, and he is shield to all that trust in him. Who is a God save the Lord, and who mighty save our God? God is my strength in war, and riddeth the way clear before me, and maketh my feet as swift as an hind's, and setteth me fast upon my high hold, and teacheth my hands to fight, that a bow of brass is too weak for mine arms. And thou hast saved me with thy shield, and keptest me ever in meekness. And thou madest me space to walk in, that my feet should not stumble. Followed mine enemies, and destroyed them, and turned not again until it consumed them. Wasted them, and so clouted them, that they could not arise, but fell under my feet. And thou compassest me about with might to bat-till, and madest them that rose against me to stoop under me. And thou madest mine enemies to turn their backs to me, and them that hated me, and destroyed them. They looked for help, but none came to save them. Unto the Lord they cried, but he heard them not, and will beat them as small as the dust of the earth, and will stamp them as the dirt of the street, and will spread them abroad. And thou deliveredst me from the dissension of my people, and keepest me to be an head over nations, for the people which knew not became my servants. And the aliens crouched unto me, and obeyed me at a word. And the aliens that shrink away shall tremble for fear in their defended places. The Lord live, and blessed be he that is my strength, and exalted be God the strength that saveth me. It is God that avengeth me, and bringeth down the people under me, and delivereth me from mine enemies. Thou liftest me up on high from them that rise against me, and deliverest me from the wicked men. And therefore will praise thee, O Lord, among the heathen, and will sing unto thy name. For thy great and manifold saving of thy king, and showing mercy unto thine anointed, even to David and his seed forever. These be the last sayings of David. David the son of Isai said, And the man is lifted up on high, the anointed of the God of Jacob, and pleasant psalmist of Israel said, The Spirit of the Lord spake in me, and his words were on my tongue. The God of Israel spake unto me, and the strength of Israel said, Vi, other, perfect. V, other, yea, words of the Lord are tried in the fire. V, other is. V, other them. V, other put there. He that beareth rule over men, he that ruleth justly in the fear of God. And he shall be as the morning light, when the sun shineth in a morning in which are no clouds to let the brightness, and as the grass of the earth is by the virtue of the rain. And is not mine house so with God, in that he hath made with me an everlasting covenant, perfect in all points, and in that he shall fulfill all that is healthsome unto me, and all my desires thereto. When the unthrifty men are all of them as thorns taken out of their places, which cannot be taken with hands, but the man that shall touch them must be armed with iron on a long helve, and then shall they be burned with fire to sit thereby. These be the names of the mighty men that were about David: Joseph of Sebeth the Thachmonite, first of 3, otherwise called Adino the Azanite, which slew 800th at one time. And next to him Eleazar the son of Dodi the son of Ahohi, one of the 3 principal that were with David, which when they defied the Philistines that were there gathered together in battle, and the men of Israel were gone up, arose and laid on the Philistines until his hand ached and clave unto the sword. And the Lord made a great victory the same day, and the people returned and went after him only to spoil. After him was Semar the son of Ageh the Hararite, which when the Philistines were gathered together in Lahiah, where was a parcel of land full of rice, and the people were fled for fear of the Philistines, stood in the midst of the said ground, and defended it, and slew the Philistines. And the Lord gave him a great victory. And these 3 of the 30 of the lords went down and came to David in the harvest time unto the cave Adullam. And the host of the Philistines had pitched in the valley of giants. And David was then in an hold. And the soldiers of the Philistines were then in Bethlehem. And David longed and said, O that had of the water that is in the well in the gate of Bethlehem for to drink. And anon the 3 mighty brake thorough the host of the Philistines, and fetched water out of the well of Bethlehem that was in the gate, and took and brought it to David. Nevertheless he would not drink thereof, but offered it unto the Lord, and said, The Lord forbid that should do so, should drink the blood of men that were in jeopardy of their lives. And so he would not drink it. These things did these 3 mighty men. Then Abi, brother of Joab, the son of Zeruiah. He was a captain over the 3, and he lifted up his spear against 300th and slew them, and was named with the 3. For he was nobler man than the 3, and was their captain. Howbeit he attained not unto those 3 in acts. Then Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, the son of a lusty man, valiant in acts of Rabzeel, he slew 2 lions of Moab. He went down and slew a lion in a pit in time of snow. And he slew an Egyptian, a goodly man, which had a spear in his hand. And Benaiah went down to him with a staff, and plucked the spear out of the Egyptian's hand, and slew him with his own spear. Such things did Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and was the noblest of 30, but not like to any of the 3 in facts of war. And David made him of his counsel. Asahel the brother of Joab was one of the 30. Then Elihanan the son of Dodo of Bethleh, Hem, Sema the Haradite, Elisha the Haradite, Helez the Pal, Itite, Ira the son of Achish the Thekoite, Abiezer of Anathoth, Mobonai the Husathite, Zelman an Ahohite, Maharai the Netophathite, Heleb the son of Bana a Netophathite, Ithai the son of Ribai of Gabaa, a city of the children of Benjamin, Benaiah the Pharathonite, Hedai of the river of Gas, Abi, Alban the Arbathite, Asmaweth a Berhomite, Elithaba a Sal Abonite, of the sons of Jason Jonathas, Sema the Heror, Ita, Ahiam the son of Sarah an Ararite, Eliphalet the son of Asbai the son of a Machathite, Eliam the son of Ahitophel the Gilonite, Hezrai the Carmelite, Pharai the Arbite, Igal the son of Nathan of Zobah, Bani the Gadite, Zelek an Ammonite, Naharai a Berathite the harness-bearer of Joab the son of Zeruiah, Ira the Jethrite, Gareb the Jethrite, Uriah the Hethite, in all 30 and 7. And the Lord was wroth again against Israel, and stirred up David against them, saying, Go and number both Israel and Judah. And forthwith the king said to Joab the captain of his host, Go abroad, pray thee, thorough out all the tribes of Israel, even from Dan to Bersabee, and number the people that may know the number of them. And Joab said unto the king, Beseech that the Lord thy God make the people as many more as they be, yea, and 100th time so many more, and that the eyes of my lord the king may see them. But how is it that my lord the king hath a lust in this thing, notwithstand? The king's words prevailed against Joab and against all the captains of the host. Then Joab and the captains of the host went out from the king to view the people of Israel. And they passed over Jordan and pitched in Aroer on the right side of the city that lieth in the midst of the valley of Gad, and so forth to Jazer. And then they went to Gilead and to the netherland of Hodesi, and from thence to Danjan, and about to Sidon, and came to the strong town of Tyre, and to all the cities of the Hivites and of the Canaanites, and then went out to the south of Judah, even to Beerseba. And so when they had been abroad throughout all the land, they returned to Jerusalem again at the end of 9 months and 20 days. And then Joab delivered up the reckoning of the number of the people unto the king. And there were found in Israel 900,000 men of might that drew swords. And the men of Judah were 500,000 men. And David's heart smote him after that he had numbered the people. And he said unto the Lord, Have sinned exceedingly in that have done. And now, Lord, take away the trespass of thy servant, for have done foolishly. And when David was up in the morning, the word of the Lord came unto the prophet Gad David's seer, saying, Go and say unto David, Thus saith the Lord, Offer thee 3 things, choose which of them shall do to thee. And Gad came to David and showed him and said unto him, Whether wilt thou have 7 years' hunger in thy land, or that thou flee 3 months before thine enemies, and they following thee, or that there be 3 days' pestilence in thy land? Now understand and see what word shall bring again to him that sent me. Then said David unto Gad, Am in a marvellous strait. But let me fall, pray thee, into the hands of the Lord, for much is his mercy, and let me not fall into the hands of men. And the Lord sent a pestilence in Israel from the morning unto the end of the time appointed. And there died of the people between Dan and Beerseba 70,000 men. And when the angel stretched out his hand unto Jerusalem to have destroyed it, the Lord had compassion to do that evil, and said to the angel that destroyed the people, It is sufficient, let thine hand cease. And the angel was at the threshing place of Araunah the Jebusite. Then spake David unto the Lord when he saw the angel that smote the people, and said, Lo, it is that have done wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done? Let, pray thee, thine hand be on me and on my father's house. And Gad came the same day to David, and said unto him, Go up and rear an altar unto the Lord in the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. And David, according to the saying of Gad, went up as the Lord commanded. And when Araunah looked and saw the king and his servants coming toward him, he went out, and bowed himself to the king flat on his face to the ground, and said, Wherefore is my lord the king come to his servant? And David said, To buy the threshing floor of thee, for to make an altar unto the Lord, that the plague may cease from the people. And Araunah said unto the king, Let my lord the king take and offer what seemeth him good in his eyes. Behold, oxen for sacrifice, and sleds and the other instruments of the oxen for wood. And Araunah the king's friend gave all to the king, and said moreover unto the king, The Lord thy God accept thee. But the king said unto Araunah, Not so, but will buy it of thee at a price, and will not offer sacrifice unto the Lord my God that shall cost me naught. And so David bought the threshing floor and the oxen for 50 sickles of silver. And David built there an altar unto the Lord, and offered burnt sacrifices and peace offerings. And so the Lord was agreed with the land, and the plague ceased from Israel. End of T2 Ark of Samuel, Weda Ty commonly Kafel T2 of T Kings.